270 multiplier on this vampire. How did we push him that far? And is the Vampire Midas combo actually any good on its own, or does it need to be carried by something else? Starting with the vampire immediately 92 is nice, but we also have a soul, Perkeo, which we need him for everything. He's the main scientist of the game. But we also have Triboulet, whose name I can never pronounce, so let's just call him Triple A instead. He's a wrestler now. And while the main thing we want to feed this vampire is strictly golden cards, before we have Midas, we can feed him a rock and 2 queens pretending to be all the suits at the same time. So this early on, we will just grab every card upgrade we can, and we feed him a slightly more varied diet. Landing a Temperance early on is amazing. We can now clone that with Perkeo, and we can print cash, which we need, since we need to buy every single upgrade we can find, and force feed them to the vampire so he becomes a big, strong boy. Which I don't think will happen because it's actually a pretty terrible card. 0.1 multiplier for every card upgrade that he eats. So he deletes your upgrades, making you worse, and he also doesn't really get a good trade-off from it. He scales slowly. Now on the plus side we have a Midas early, so we have plenty of time to force feed the vampire all the gold in the universe. We are on Plasma deck for now, but I will also play other decks just so we don't always do the same one. It is pretty good though, but maybe we can do something extra dumb with something else. Golden Joker had his 5 seconds in the sun. We now need the Showman, because as always we need as many blueprints as we can find, re-trigger everything, play many hands, and all those hands need to be face cards without scoring too high, because then we play less hands. The problem is with AAA in the mix, kings and queens will get an insane score very quickly, so we have to play jacks. At least for the first half of this, just so we can fit in as many hands as possible, and later we will somehow have to crown all the jacks and make them kings. That sounds unnecessarily complicated, and it will also take loads and loads of tarot cards. But that's what we have Perkeo for. Print all the cards we need, do all the things, hopefully get some kind of result. Rolling the wheel lands us a Disco Shad. Very fancy, perhaps not that useful. And we also went down an ante with the voucher, so is less ante more good in this case? It should be, because we buy more time to do more stupid shenanigans. And since we are already scoring 12Es, we at least have the possibility to go quite far. An aura effect here to have a cooler king that we can then clone would be nice, but the red seal has to be better. Since we have AAA and his magical ability to give 2 times multiplier for every king and queen we play. Go down another ante, play some more kings. The vampire is sitting at a massive 12 multiplier by the end of ante 9, which should be ante 11 actually. So I'm not very hopeful for this guy, but even if he adds nothing to the build, I will still drag him along, face down if I have to, through all the antes until eventually we meet our doom in glorious poker combat and we end up in wherever wrestlers and vampires go to retire. The Baron in this case should also be useless, right? Because if we do the quick math, the Baron is 1.5 times multiplier for a king, Trib is 2, although we have to play those. And there's also an Observatory in this seed, right? We might have to come back to that one. But the only case where the Baron is better than Triboulet is if we have a massive hand of many kings that we can roll through. A negative golden card, perfect for all the golden cards that I can play in this setup. Amazing. And as usual, if I'm horribly wrong, you can look very smart and cool on the internet by correcting my stupid ideas. And the old eternal showman problem. We need him to be able to find all the cool things. But then we need to throw him away to fit in all the cool things. So how would you juggle a showman perfectly? We need to get rid of him to fit in more things at a specific time, and then do some insane seed science and find out when we can get him back for the next cool thing. I don't know if I've actually done that even remotely well in this case. We shall see. We have a negative tag coming up too actually with the cola I bought, but I have not planned this, so we get a Baron and a walkie-talkie. Okay, this is doomed. New seed, new plan, instant natural negative Baron. We also have an abstract Joker that is not going to do a whole lot, and on top of that we have another 2 negative tags. And this early on, when we don't have that much money, I only have limited options in the shop. So we should get a negative of this guy, but I have to sell him first because I also don't have a showman, or a vampire, or a Midas. There's a few problems here. So with this collection of random stuff, a brainstorm is going to be excellent because then we can double one of the random things we have. Another abstract joker and another natural negative abstract joker. So the showman in this seed is a fine art collector. So does the Midas mask qualify as a cool art piece that this guy wants to collect? Or is it just some kind of rotten antique that nobody wants? Except the vampire, for reasons I do not yet understand. We have an egg, a wheel, natural negative parking for the kings to make some cash, a disco showman, a golden ticket that I want to bring just because it's the most useless thing I can imagine, trade him for the music guy, what makes my hand size bigger. I was gonna say where is the vampire, but he finally showed up in Ante 12. So we bury this vampire in a sea of garlic with a wooden pole through his heart and brain. Loads of negatives in that seed, which was pretty cool, but we're going to have to go somewhere else for the Midas Vampire Glorious combo. That is going to be awful. That is the worst bull I've ever seen, and is still infinitely better than the vampire we just had. But can we get vampire bulls? That's the real science. More blueprint is more good. The more we can activate Perkeo, the more cool things we can print. And here we have something actually interesting. A negative certificate. So every round we get a random card with a random seal. And the seals can be helpful, but since we also need more cards to use death cards on to turn into jacks and then later kings, probably, just having a random card generator on top of whatever else we are doing might actually be useful. We now have this familiar problem where I need to juggle 1,000 things. We need to manage the deck. It needs to be jacks first and then kings. That's Perkeo's job, clone the right cards. We need the showman to find all the blueprints so we can run Perkeo at 4 times speed until he eventually explodes. We need to dodge Triboulet with the jacks and then later hit him with kings. We need cash so we can find the stuff that we probably need, and we still need space for Midas to make golden cards to feed the vampire, and maybe something else that I'm probably forgetting. Do I want another clone joker to get in here and storm some brains? Yes. But the only thing I can throw away is the showman. Is that going to be a problem? Also yes. And we have an uncommon sock, which is a card I rarely see, but in this case actually useful. We will come back to him though. The deck has a couple of face cards, so that part is going well. And we also have this superpower where we can find spectral cards in Arcana packs. So we know that more jokers is more good, so of course we just fire the ectoplasm. Technically I don't need more than 5 cards if we're playing to AAA's standards. So if we instead just have more blueprints, we can print more planet cards and we can use the multiplier from those through Observatory. All this just to drag one single vampire and his Midas mask through way more antes than he had any business ever seeing on his own merit. One way to pretend that you still have a showman even though you threw him in a ditch somewhere is to use invisible jokers. We just need to sell all the stuff that we are definitely not using. Then we pop him and through magic we get a blueprint. 100% guaranteed every time. So we can now reactivate Perkeo 4 times and we can start printing some planets. The problem now is that I think I started stacking them too late, and since we are not on plasma deck, it also will not really scale. But black deck will give us 1 more joker slot, which is nice. If you remember that negative tag, now that we sort of know what we're doing, we can set that up to land on a SOT, which should combine nice with AAA for more AAA action for bigger score, and greater glory, and something with vampires. 1 more ectoplasm, so we now land at 5 hand size. So you can get your predictions in now. Will there be a massive problem or is it fine? But now we need the showman back, so where is he hiding? Get back here. Cool, he's back on the team. We play a hand. 38 E's, very cool. Then we find a blueprint. Showman, get out. So now we should definitely not be able to fit in any more jokers. I'm digging through most of the card packs, just picking up anything that's a queen or a king. Because with more blueprints we also have a bigger burglar and we can play even more hands. And after we roll through all the planets, we have 44 east, so we are on par with the score we need. But there's no way that this is going to last that long. I would like to think that more ectoplasm is more good, but this will completely ruin our hand. Showman again, he just gets to watch Perkeo print planets. On the plus side, we are now getting 6 planets every round. And we drag the vampire all the way to 200 multiplier. So it's still less than 1/8 of a cat. And a vampire that is only the size of a fraction of a cat, it's not really that scary, you see. Let's give the black deck one more go. So golden seals is one of those not the best money strat, but if you play loads of cards, it's still going to add up and it will mean that we can do more things in the shop. But how would you play this better? Plasma deck with Observatory and Perkeo has the potential to hit infinity, so that makes sense. That would definitely be a bigger vampire. But what else can we do that is not dependent on Plasma deck? I tried to play a flush 5 early so we can unlock the planet card, but ante 8 might still be too late to start stacking these things. Blueprint, Showman, you actually live this day because I have another sacrifice. And immediately we are out of sacrifices. We definitely need the burglar. So Showman is thrown on the trash pile yet again. 15 hands is pretty good, so with an earlier burglar he can steal all the gold from the shop, pass it over to the Midas mask, which will then pour it over every single face card we have, incinerating their entire face holes. Then the vampire just comes in and slurps it all up, and that somehow makes him stronger. He will give us a big old multiplier that will do absolutely nothing compared to the power of Triboulet. 14 E's already, and that's not even a flush 5 with the Observatory multipliers. 50 ships from a random natural negative, that's totally going to make all the difference here. This is an amazing seed. Someone described it as the Balatro seed. Not only do we have the legendaries, but after I get the ectoplasms, I also basically instantly find something useful for the extra slot that we now have. Now I haven't done the math, and I probably should have. We have about 56 planets so far. On top of that, the only thing we can really do is to get as many blueprints as possible split between Triboulet and the sock. And however long that lasts, that's as big as the vampire is going to be. We get the Showman in, we play a very cool big hand, 50 E's now, so we are actually ahead, we have some margin. And we throw the Showman out. We know the deal now. This is his life, his purpose. You find blueprints so I can do stupid science shenanigans, and then you're out. Wow, another fantastic negative, the self-destructing ice cream. Has the vampire eaten enough gold to deserve an ice cream? Or does he need to eat his rock cards first? 160 planets now, so thankfully we have mod people, cool people that make speed up things, or this would also take 1,000 years to play one single hand. Why does my shop reroll start at -$1, and why does the shop not pay me $1 when I reroll? I think I have forever ruined my chances of landing a wheel after abusing the 4 negative dice. And do I want to ruin it all with a hex card? Yes is the answer, but no, I'm not gonna do it. We have dragged the vampire and his enormous giant golden belly all the way to 250 multiplier. Actually a fairly relevant number. So was there any point actually reactivating the vampire with blueprints here, or is it better to just roll them through Triboulet and the sock, because that would work for every card? If you have any other big brain ideas for how to make this better, let me know. We can continue to do better science. Looking at the blinds now, 77 E's is just a couple of E's too far. We can't roll the serpent because this is a finisher blind, and even if we could roll the serpent, we don't have a setup to abuse his bigger hand size. Unless I had a baron and many steel cards at this point. And with the last couple of cards, we push him to 270. If you like these stupid niche builds, check out this video where we try to stack as many bananas as possible next. Thank you for watching.